Hey guys, Marvin here. Slightly frustrated. This is the third time I've tried to record this segment. We are working our way through Andrew Skirka's Ultimate Hiker's Gear Guide in preparation for the Summit Series hike in 2020 in Colorado. Um, and I'm trying to get a video down on cooking systems. Like I said, this is the third time I've tried, so I should be pretty good at it. All right, so uh, the first decision to make is, are you going to cook? And if you're not, then you're done. Congratulations, and you can move on to another video. If you are going to cook, then you probably need to recognize that cooking in the backcountry is pretty much confined to boiling water and rehydrating stuff. So, uh, you're not going to be cooking steaks or burgers or anything like that, uh, for sure. Um, so, but what that means is that your cooking solutions can be pretty darn simple, because all they have to accomplish is boiling some water for you. Um, so the simplest way, obviously, to do that is with a fire and a pot. Um, Somewhat unreliable, quite illegal, some places, um, and definitely not in line with leave no trace principles. So nobody really recommends it. The next step is a wood burning stove. Um, there's lots of contenders. The two I looked at seriously were the Solo Stove Light, which is primarily a wood burning stove that also has an alcohol fuel option, um, and the Trail Designs Caldera system, which is primarily an alcohol stove that also has a wood burning option. Not a huge fan of the wood burning. Um, Couple of challenges. One, very likely when you need it the most, i.e., after a long day with a lot of rain in the cold, is when it's going to be the most challenging to get a wood fire going, um, in your stove. And secondly, if you're going to spend nights above tree line, which we are going to absolutely on the um, Colorado Trail, then you're going to have to remember to pick up an appropriate quantity of dry sticks and twigs, before you get to camp, or get to where you're going to cook. Um, and that just seems annoying. So, well, I think the wood burning option is super cool, and I'll probably try it on some short trips at some point, just because apparently I like this stuff. Uh, Not going to be my go-to solution for a 14-day section hike on the Colorado Trail this summer. All right, so let's flip to the other end of the spectrum real quick, since we're not really going to talk about it, and just say the absolute other end of the spectrum are what are known as liquid fuel stoves. Um, these are the good old-fashioned, you know, Coleman two-burner stoves from back in the day that were green that your mom and dad had on the picnic table, and you pumped up the gas container using a little hand pump, and then you lit it on fire, and it blew a 2 or 3 foot high, plume of flame until the vaporizer tube got hot, and then it started chugging like a steam locomotive, and you could cook on it. So the modern equivalent of that, which as it turns out has been around for 50 years, is sort of the MSR Whisper Light series. Um, and the international version of that will literally burn almost anything that you put in it: diesel, leaded fuel, unleaded fuel, white gas, etc. They're great. put out a tremendous amount of heat, um, and are absolutely what you want in the winter if you've got a lot of snow to melt for water and things like that. But pretty heavy for 3 season use, um, and so not really going to cover those. If you're winter camping, then that's the way to go. So that leaves you with kind of the two main options that I saw people talking about as I was doing my research on YouTube with folks who have a whole lot more experience than I do on much longer hikes than I'm going to do. And they were kind of split down the middle. About half were alcohol stove proponents, and the other half were canister stove proponents. So let's start with alcohol stoves. So the simplest possible alcohol stove, Andrew calls it his dirtbag solution, consists of literally a Fancy Feast cat food can with some holes punched in the side of it in the prescribed pattern. You put some alcohol in it, you light it on fire, you stick your pot on top of it, and 5 to 10 minutes later you have boiled water, and you can make your dinner or breakfast. Typically requires a windscreen, absolutely requires a lighter, but it's cheap, it's relatively light, it's more or less foolproof from the perspective of it doesn't have any moving parts. It's slow compared to a canister stove, as you'll see, but seems to work well, and a lot of people use it. The drawback that I see with it, in addition to kind of some of the obvious ones, are I think it does present a significantly higher fire hazard, and I don't want to be the guy that burns down, some national forest somewhere because my stove tipped over. And that, for that reason, in certain places, and an increasing number of places during certain times of the year, alcohol stoves are prohibited. So if you want a single solution you can use everywhere, an alcohol stove is not for you, but they are still viable a lot of places. And given that you can make a stove for the cost of a 99-cent can of cat food, and some aluminum foil and a lighter, well, you have to buy the pot too. Pretty slick solution. The other option is canister stoves, and far and away the winner for the canister in the canister camp was the BRS 3000, which weighs less than an ounce. It's literally just a burner and a valve that screw onto the top of a propane isobutane canister, and it will support a pot. It does need a windscreen of some sort typically, but the stove itself is less than an ounce. So very comparable, as you'll see, to the alcohol system. And then there are integrated systems. The best known is Jetboil. So Jetboil is a canister stove or canister burner with a proprietary, I forgot what they call it, kind of heat transfer mechanism that goes on the bottom of their pot, which is insulated, and the advantage of Jetboil is, as the name implies, very short, very fast boil times, 2 to 3 minutes, and by comparison to everything else, very low fuel consumption. So a standard canister, the so-called 100-gram canister, boils 12 liters of water using the Jetboil system. That's a lot of water for backpacking purposes. So, that's kind of the advantage. The disadvantage is, by comparison, it's a little bit on the heavy side. So, the Jetboil Micro Me, which is what I picked, is their lightest option. It's 12 ounces plus the fuel. The 100-gram fuel canister weighs, when full, 7 ounces and about 3.5 ounces when empty. And 3 ounces when empty, and you can boil 12 liters on the Jetboil. I don't know how many liters you can boil with the BRS. It's probably quite a bit more variable depending on how good a job you do of screening the wind, and kind of how well your pot and burner integrate. It's going to be substantially less than 12. But, a standard titanium pot is, 4 ounces. The burner is an ounce. The lighter is another ounce. If you're going to really compare apples to apples, you have to throw in a cup. So that's, another couple ounces. So call it 9 ounces, for the BRS system. Or so, give or take, plus fuel. The Trail Designs Caldera system also clocks in with a cup at 9.5 ounces, not including fuel. The Fancy Feast can system is, 6 or 7. Probably 7. It's absolutely the lightest, but it's also the fussiest and, kind of most, the one that, you're going to have to invest some effort in getting your water boiled every night versus just, set it up, hit the piezo igniter, and come back in 2 minutes to boiled water. So I ultimately couldn't decide. So since money's not the absolute most important thing to me about my gear, I've ordered both. I've ordered a Trail Designs Caldera with a Toaks 900 milliliter pot, and I have also ordered a Jetboil, and I'm going to try them side by side and make a decision. My math goes like this. The Jetboil with a 100-gram canister is 19 ounces. It'll boil 12 quarts of water. The Caldera cone with 12 ounces of alcohol, which is the amount of alcohol you need to boil 12 quarts of water, or 12 liters of water rather, is 21.5 ounces. So liter for liter, the Jetboil is actually better than the alcohol stoves, and it's probably right at equivalent to the Fancy Feast stove. So the argument is that, okay, but most of the time you don't need to boil 12 liters of water. So if you're resupplying more frequently than that, you can carry less alcohol than 12 ounces, so you can get your weight down, and the further down you go, the more the argument kind of breaks down. Okay, fair enough, and I think that's a pretty valid argument for kind of the BRS system, because you never get away from the 3 ounces of canister weight, so you kind of have to add that in. So if you add that to the pot and the cup and all of that, you're kind of at 12 ounces. And so, if you're really counting grams, you can make a case that the alcohol system gives you a lower average weight per liter of boiled water um, than the canister-based systems. And I think that's, one of the reasons why a lot of people like them. That and the fact that they are super cheap. I mean, the Jetboil is $150, and the Fancy Feast can is $1.50. So, there's no way to argue that the Jetboil is 100 times better than the Fancy Feast can. It's not. So, dollar for dollar, that the Fancy Feast can is the hands down winner. But again, if money's not your primary consideration, and if some amount of certainty is important, then the canister options are worth considering. I'll probably do another video once I get both of them in and have a chance to fool around with them and see. Who knows? I may become an alcohol stove convert where they're legal, and put the Jetboil in the bug out bag. Don't know, but the bottom line is, either way you go, the weight difference is no more than 3 ounces. And so I probably spent, probably the most time I've spent thinking about how to save 3 ounces of anything else I've done. So there you go. I'm a weirdo. But if you made it to 16 and a half minutes in this video, maybe you're a little bit weird too. So love you. Talk to you soon.